Politics with Phil Goff.
Yeah, let's talk politics with the man who's on the road at the moment. He's on a bus. He's on a bus. G'day there, Phil.
Yeah, g'day, Wammo. How are you, mate?
Good. No snakes on that bus, though, are there?
No, it's brightly painted and it's got X the tax on it, and that, of course, is one of the key things we're looking at, axing the increase in GST. No one voted for it. It'll push up prices, and nobody's going to be better off because your prices go up.
Just got to make sure, just for the record, Phil, because I know people are looking at this kind of stuff at the moment. The bus and the sign writing on the side of the bus hasn't been paid for by the taxpayer.
No, this is out. It's out of the Leaders Fund, which is the grant that is given to me. I mean, that is public money, but this is out on a political issue, promoting a particular policy position, and I've got to tell you, it's not a fraction of the price of John Key's pamphlet that's gone out on school standards with the National Party logo on it. So okay. It's absolutely legitimate expenditure. We're out there, we're listening to New Zealand communities across the country, we're talking with them, and we're speaking out on their behalf. That's our job as an opposition. All
right, so you've been on the bus for a few days now. Honestly, what has the feedback been about tax and rising of GST?
Well, it's been pretty consistent with what you've seen in the public opinion polls. We launched yesterday at the Avondale market. We've been around shopping centres. We're going through Waikato University this morning, going through the Polytechnic this afternoon. We're going around the shopping centres here. And what people are basically saying, hey, we didn't vote for this. They promised that they wouldn't increase it. They've broken their word. And how can we be better off if our prices are going up? They're going to give with one hand, but they've taken with the other. And the other part of our argument, Wammo, very clearly is, while you're watching the switch around with GST and personal income tax, the real action's taking place on cutting the top tax rate from 38 to 33, because if you're earning over 100,000, you'll do okay out of that. If you're earning 70,000 or less, you'll get nothing out of that tax cut.
But John Key's been sweetening up the older generation by saying that they'll get a rise in superannuation if the GST rises as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting response. I think it's the pressure we put on. In fact, I asked him that question in Parliament last week. Okay, you say you're going to compensate those on superannuation, but what happens is the prices go up and you get the compensation 6 months or more later. And he knows that he's broken his word. He knows he's on thin ice here. So he made the big announcement to Grey Power that they'll give the compensation now at the same time as the prices go up. Well, that's what we were demanding, and that's great. But it doesn't leave you better off. It just means that you're not worse off to the extent that you would have been beforehand. So look, everybody knows that he said, well, we're going to spend this money on tax cuts, and that'll come out of the money we get from GST. So that's just a money go round. So for most people, you're not going to be better off unless you're on a high income, in which case they'll make sure you're better off. Because if you're on the Prime Minister's parliamentary salary, for example, you'll get an extra $310 a week. If you're on 70,000 or less, you'll get zilch extra a week in real terms.
Now, if you were in government, if Labour was in government, Phil, would you have done any kind of rejigging of the tax system?
Well, if there was money to pay out in cutting taxes, our commitment, and it's an ongoing commitment, is that you've got to make those tax cuts across the board, not just for the top privileged elite that got the biggest tax cuts last year in April as a result of the December 08 legislation from National. What we're saying is, instead of giving it to the top 8%, spread out any benefits that you're able to give. Make sure that middle and lower income people are getting a fair share in that. That's the Labour stance. It's crystal clear.
On to one of the other big issues of last week, this issue with Phil Heatley and him standing down. Do you believe that there was something more to this story than what's been told?
Well, there's quite a lot there already, I guess. I mean, he had to pay back $1,200 in money that he spent wrongly, that should have been privately paid for, that was in fact paid for by the taxpayer. $1,200 largely in taking his family for a holiday around the South Island and putting it on his ministerial credit card. Well, you can't do that. And I think, and then there was the bottles of wine that he wrote down as a dinner for his wife and himself. That might have been marginal at best, but when it was to buy grog for his National Party mates at the conference, obviously it was totally unsustainable. But I think what really forced the back down was that, just going from what the media said, and I'm relying on their research on this, apparently Phil Heatley had been warned by officials time and again about misuse of the credit card, and he'd chosen to ignore that advice. So, that tends to suggest it might have been more than a simple mistake. But if it was a simple mistake, well, you could have forgiven him.
But it's hardly, corruption at the highest level, is it?
No, it's not corruption at the highest level, and we've never claimed that. But it is misuse of the taxpayers' money. John Key promised us higher standards, and, we've now had 2 ministers resign because they've fallen well short of those standards. And I was a little surprised, actually, that John Key said that he shouldn't have resigned because, if you set the high standards, then you've got to live up to them.
Yeah. Hey, Phil, we'll leave you to the bus. I mean, who's providing the entertainment on the bus? Because, there's long journeys and whatnot. What do you do to entertain yourselves?
Well, I'm sitting next to David Shearer, and he's pretty good on the guitar, but I've got to tell you that he's left it behind on this occasion. He said it's too serious an issue. He doesn't want to make light of it.
Well, you could create some of the best political movements have always had good songs to go along with it. You could create a tax song or something.
Yeah, well, every revolutionary movement has its creative artists amongst it. But no, we're out there. We're basically doing the stuff in a pretty serious manner. We'll hopefully enjoy ourselves as we go along. But